Good Monday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by BASF and Veltima Fungicide, proven number one for the toughest corn diseases with long-lasting residual when you need to be confident your fungicide will perform. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg reporting. With rain falling outside right now, 58 degrees on the barn thermometer. Powered by soy biodiesel, I'm getting ready to head down to Grove City and the Pinnacle Golf Club for the Ohio Farm Bureau Foundation golf outing as we raise funds for the foundation scholarships, grants, and programs that help enhance agricultural communities and support careers in agriculture. Taking a look at what's making headlines at OhioAgNet.com, rural communities across Ohio face no shortage of challenges, from aging infrastructure and limited broadband access to tight farm margins and rising costs. Many towns are searching for ways to remain economically viable while continuing to support agriculture and local families. Now, according to Charles Tassel, Ohio State's Director of USDA's Rural Development, his agency is designed to be one of the key support systems helping those communities navigate today's challenges. You can learn more about what the USDA Rural Development Agency offers at OhioAgNet.com. Also up on the website, an article by Troy Putnam. He's a pioneer field agronomist for Southern Ohio, taking a look at what the crop progress is so far in June and some important management considerations as we move forward. All that along with other agricultural news, markets, and weather online today at OhioAgNet.com. And a reminder, today's news feed was delivered to you by Eberts Field Seeds, delivering proven local seed performance to Ohio farmers. It's time to start planting Eberts. Call us at 937-473-2521 or visit us online at ebertseeds.com. That's EBBERTS seeds.com. Let's check in now with Ty Higgins as he takes a look at what's up on this week's Ohio AgNet podcast.
There's a new Ohio AgNet podcast at OhioAgNet.com. Ohio Corn and Wheat's Emerging Leaders Program, created to identify, educate, and empower the next generation of agricultural leaders. Tad Nicholson is Executive Director of Ohio Corn and Wheat. He talks about one of the benefits of getting involved at the leadership level of one of his organizations, and that's expanding your reach across the country.
It's because of the new network of people that you have at your disposal, not just in Ohio, all across the country, because of the connection that Ohio Corn and Wheat has to similar organizations all across the Corn Belt. But also being a part of the conversation, being in the room means you're getting the information, you're tasked with making decisions on behalf of other farmers, and our board takes that very seriously. And because of that, they study a lot and they learn. And when they're done with their board service, I can honestly say I think every one of them leave feeling like they are a better farmer after than before.
Also on the new podcast, Austin Robinson, livestock product specialist with Farm Credit Mid-America, talks about livestock protection insurance.
If you are farming right now, you've got a lot of risk, right? Farming is the riskiest business that there is out there, right? That's why we have a risk management side to our business at Farm Credit, as well as a lending side. And so I think my main concern is just recognize that, obviously, and be cognizant of it and have a plan in place. We've seen a lot of changes over the past couple weeks, even just with the announcement of screwworm, let's say, and some other announcements as well. And the time to be implementing a plan is not when the market is dropping on a daily basis, right? The time to be implementing a plan is in the good times. It's when things are going well, to protect against times when it goes the opposite direction.
That's all in the latest Ohio AgNet podcast, calling all leaders and protecting risk in the livestock sector. You can find it online at OhioAgNet.com and the video version on Facebook and our YouTube channel, Ohio AgNet TV. I'm Ty Higgins reporting.
Thanks, Ty. Let's get a check now of your Monday morning weather forecast. This weather update brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. You can learn more online at seedconsultants.com.
Moisture lingering this morning here across the Buckeye State. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. Here's what's going on. Still watching low pressure try and exit through the eastern Corn Belt. Now, some of the biggest rains started to our west overnight last night and back into yesterday. I think it's a long tail today, finally pushing out through east and southeastern parts of Ohio as we move into this afternoon. An additional tenth to maybe half an inch of moisture through the day today, and then we clear out overnight tonight. Dry everywhere for tomorrow and Wednesday. But as we get into Thursday, we've got another frontal boundary coming through. Scattered showers, probably 75-80% coverage, 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch across the state there. Drier for Friday afternoon, but the weekend a little bit more unstable. Another pop-up shower thunderstorm complex trying to come through for Saturday into Sunday. Heat returns next week. That increases instability for a few days, but the July 4th holiday weekend, preliminarily, looking pretty good. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more after this.
Ohio farmers, we know summer means long days in the field and plenty of work still to do. And the Ohio AgNet wants to bring lunch to your farm. The Feeding Farmers contest is back this summer, and we'll be choosing farms across Ohio for a visit from the Ohio AgNet, along with free lunch for your farm, family, and crew. Get entered today at ohioagnet.com/feedingfarmers. Feeding Farmers is brought to you by Ag Revolution, Paradise Energy Solutions, Tempty, and the Ohio AgNet.
This quick calendar reminder, be sure to tune in on Thursday during midday as I'll be headed down to the Pickaway County Fair. Our broadcast on Thursday, thanks to Leist Mercantile, helping manage risks since 1983. Find out more at leistmercantile.com. Well, we all know we're in a global market, and we're going to take a look today at some of the things going on down in Brazil. With a bevy of crop production challenges heading Brazil's way, there's growing questions leading into their fall planting season over whether the country's farmers continue to sustain their growth forecast for both corn and soybeans. Now, Purdue University's Center for Commercial Agriculture last Wednesday examined issues around Brazil's production forecast with 2027. Like U.S. farmers, Brazilian farmers face low commodity prices as well as high fertilizer and input costs. Brazilians also face tough credit conditions and the risk of a strong El Niño weather pattern. Now, in last week's World Ag Supply and Demand Estimates report, the USDA projected Brazil's 26-27 soybean production at 186 million metric tons. That's up 6 million metric tons from 25-26. Corn production for that year of 26-27 projected at 139 million metric tons. That's up 1 million metric tons from 25-26 as well. Now, as Purdue's analysts noted, lower Brazilian crop production would buck historical trends. Brazil annually has seen steady growth in corn and soybean production of about 6.5% for the past 15 years. Now, Brazil's production expansion has relied heavily on converting more acres into corn and soybean crops. Purdue raises the issue of whether a series of shocks for the crop year of 26-27 could slow that growth. Brazil is far more dependent on imports than U.S. farmers, especially when it comes to nitrogen and phosphate. Now, fertilizer costs are one of the reasons to question whether USDA's soybean and corn production outlook for Brazil would be realized. That, according to Purdue University, prices have been decreasing from recent peaks, but they remain high enough to affect planning and input decisions. Now, as the conflict with Iran ends, fertilizer companies will be among those watching to see how fast traffic flow picks up for certain commodities through the Straits of Hormuz. Dow Jones Market Watch last Wednesday also suggested that fertilizer, quote, may take a backseat to oil and oil products when it comes to transiting the straits. Now, some have highlighted that the strait and the region are not only critical for urea production, but also sulfur that's needed to produce phosphate fertilizer. In an interview with Mosaic executives, they raised concern about fertilizer availability and pricing for Brazilian farmers. Now, pointing to credit challenges in Brazil's farm sector, Reuters reported last week that the more farms in the country are being seized by creditors, Brazil's central bank is seeing more delinquent loans and defaults in rural areas. Nearly 20% of farm loans are now under the, quote, bad debt. That's up from 5.5% of loans 2 years ago, and that's led Brazilian lenders to become more aggressive in taking farmland and putting it up for auction. Purdue's article backs this up, pointing to Brazilian farmers paying higher interest rates, with the country's benchmark interest rate at nearly 15% right now, and lenders have tightened their credit to farmers as a result. That's led farmers to find alternative financing sources to manage their operations. Now, in other agricultural news, it's no secret that labor is a challenge in agriculture, especially in the dairy industry. And now new guidance from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Department of Labor clarifies that U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services will not reject the H-2A petitions from dairy operations when they can demonstrate a qualified temporary or seasonal labor need exists under the existing law. Now, according to a release that came out last Wednesday, they announced that dairying is an agricultural activity eligible for consideration under the H-2A program and recognizes that dairy operations may experience temporary or seasonal labor needs that would qualify for H-2A employment. Now, obviously, one of the challenges is dairying is year-round, 365 days a year. The H-2A program, as was just stated, is more set up for temporary or seasonal labor. Now, the U.S. Customs Inspection Service will evaluate whether an employer's need for workers is temporary or seasonal, just as it does for any other H-2A employer, and will evaluate requests individually. The policy does not create a new category or a new visa category or expanded H-2A eligibility by statute. Instead, it changes how existing law is interpreted and applies for dairy operations, and it actually took effect last Wednesday. Now, this guidance helps ensure that petitioners filing H-2A petitions on behalf of dairies are held to the same legal standards with respect to temporariness and seasonality as all other H-2A petitioners, the memorandum said. Before this guidance, the H-2A program was only available for temporary or seasonal agricultural work. The U.S. Customs Inspection Service often denied dairy H-2A petitions because dairy jobs are permanent, and some dairies were approved in limited circumstances, such as seasonal calving or temporary labor spikes, but little consistency existed in petitions for producers. Now, this is a welcome policy change for the dairy members, and they're hopeful that just the beginning of continued H-2A program expansion. That, according to John Holley, he's the National Council of Agricultural Employees president and CEO, and it comes at a time when guest farm worker certifications are up. The New York Times reported in the first half of the 2026 fiscal year, the Labor of Department certified 17% more H-2A temporary agricultural worker jobs than in the same period the year before. The National Council for Ag Employers also looks forward to working with the administration and congressional leaders to ensure the H-2A program is reformed to meet the needs of all producers and that it receives the structural support required to protect our food supply. The lack of access to H-2A labor has generally forced dairies to employ undocumented workers. Studies such as one by Texas A&M back in 2020 cited that the dairy industry employs about 129,000 people. Roughly half of those workers are foreign-born. Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at your markets after this.
Bomb 31 sold them 30,000.
Get ready to bid on the heavy equipment and vehicles you need in a Ritchie Brothers Midwest Regional Auction happening June 25th. Inventory is housed at Minneapolis, Kansas City, Chicago, Columbus, Detroit, and Lincoln locations. Choose from a wide selection of construction and transportation equipment. Don't miss this opportunity. Visit rbauction.com/Chicago to sign up. Again, that's rbauction.com/Chicago.
So many things that can have an impact on agriculture are out of the farmer's control. Yet when the weather doesn't cooperate, markets go lower, or equipment breaks down, the farmer blames themselves. Hi, I am Nathan Brown, a Highland County farmer and a member of the Ohio Farm Bureau Board of Trustees. If you or someone you know is struggling with stress on the farm, text 4HOPE to 741-741 or go visit GotYourBackOhio.org. A message from the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation.
Let's take a look at what's impacting the grain markets. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to bring a brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC at 574-566-2113.
Markets were closed last Friday in observance of the Juneteenth federal holiday, so markets couldn't go any lower, but focus now is turning more toward the upcoming USDA reports. Now, they don't come out this week. It is next week, June the 30th, and what we have is the planted acres report and the stocks report, the production report on wheat. Here's what the scuttlebutt will be, I think, trading-wise through the week of this week. 93.3 to 95.3 million acres on corn is the projected range of estimates, and beans at 85.7 to 86.7. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't know. This report usually gives us some kind of surprise, some kind of something to get the market worked up. I think it's probably going to be on corn, but time will tell whether it's going to be exceptionally friendly or not. Otherwise, weather is going to be a story this week. Still cool, plenty of rain coming through even to start the week. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look now at those markets brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. You can learn more online at seedconsultants.com. Well, the markets were closed on Friday with the Juneteenth holiday, so going back to how they closed on Thursday, July corn was down 3.5 cents at $4.17 1/2 cents. December new crop corn was down 4 3/4 at $4.44. July soybeans closed down 9 1/4 cents at $11.22 3/4, with November new crop beans closing 6.5 cents lower at $11.42 3/4, and wheat for July was down 7 cents at $6.05 3/4 cents. Now in the overnight trade, corn is down 2 cents, beans are up 3 3/4, and wheat down 3/4 of a penny. This is the Ohio AgNet.